That's not what we do. So he almost left me. He was just 11. Give me some movement, and I'm going there when I leave because I didn't yesterday because of the I know you late. I was trying to reach him to tell all of you all. And that they were like that. Not to of the word. And I said, I don't feel for him, we ain't gonna do it. And I don't blame you, trust me. I don't. Yeah, just keep praying because he's still in that room. Because they don't go back and that process didn't work with you. No. They can really do it. So it's been really good.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. The January committee meetings of the Nash County Public Schools Board of Education, I now call it to order. The first item on our agenda, or the first committee that will meet, is the Administrative Services and Operations Committee. Mr. Duncan.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. I'll go ahead and call us to order. It looks like we have Dr. Chavis, we've got Vice Chairman Lamb, and myself, so we are okay to proceed. Is Zach with us, near or far? Not yet? En route. Okay. The first item we have on the agenda is just the minutes from our November 25th committee meeting these were included in your package. If you want to, hopefully you've already had a minute to review those. If I can get a motion for approval.
So moved.
A motion and a second. Any discussions, corrections, suggestions on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion for approval of minutes carried. I got two items on our agenda, both are for information. First, Ms. Miller is going to speak to us a little bit about facilities, and then Frank Flynn's going to talk to us a little bit about our new school plans.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This cold evening. As promised, a facility update from Dennis and I on behalf of our maintenance and operations team. So I'm very excited to share a lot of really good news and bring you up to speed on a couple things. We'll start off right at the very beginning with Williford Early Learning Center. Many of you got the opportunity to travel through and take a look at this with us when we did our opening with the demerger. The left picture is a before when it was the media center with our Williford, and the picture to the right is our current early learning center. And we are using that. I see some of the crew here that actually is housed at our early learning center, and it is, I'm not sure what we did before this, but it is utilized every day, every one of the meeting spaces. It's been a true blessing, and the team did an outstanding job with that. This was done with demerger money. As I go on, I'm going to show you some things with Rocky Mount Middle School. This is demerger money. On the left-hand side, you're going to see a building. You see that we did some wiring. This is a current building that was already standing, and the team has been working on this. We've got the building permit. We're on the part of next steps. We're doing interior walls at this time. They'll be cutting an opening for a concession stand and using some of this space for storage, and they're replacing exterior trim and paint. This is still at Rocky Mount Middle School, again with demerger money. We had already completed the tennis courts. I don't know if some of you saw those. We kind of did a drive-by on the bus that day. That is the actual facility that we're talking about in the picture to the right. And we have got current separation fencing on both sides of the field that will separate the fans from the teams. And so that has been a big upgrade. And we're still in the process of That's gonna be a soccer football field, I think I shared with you. But we were so close to football season, and Rocky Mount High generously allowed us to play there. And we have to move both field goals and make this a competitive, regulation field. So it's gonna take some tweaking, but we have been working on that diligently. We just don't want to inconvenience the teams in their practice time. This is very exciting. I say all this, you see Dennis in the crowd. He has had only one day off since we, and I thought he worked on that day, which was Christmas Day, but he's been overseeing these projects that's been ongoing during our Christmas break. But these new windows, if you notice the picture on the left, you'll see the differential between the new windows and the old windows. So that's at Rocky Mount Middle on the City High side. We drove the bus through that area right past the big fence. So those have been completed. There will be new blinds put in there. That was done when the students were out, so the windows were taken out completely and they were finishing up caulking. They did work weekends and during the day, during our break, to make sure that got in place. So they're tidying up a few loose ends with that, but it looks, you can see the difference. It looks fantastic. So we're doing that, and it took forever for those windows to get in, so that started, the installation process started on 12/20/24. This is exciting also for many of you. The wheelchair lift that's at Rocky Mount Middle School has been out of commission for about 2 years. This is a new one. It's already been installed. It's complete and it is up and running. We are gonna have on January the 21st is the TRA graduation in the auditorium. So that's exciting, and we'll show you a little bit about that in just a moment. So this is a picture on the far left is the old auditorium with the seating, and you see the dark wood. If you look at the middle picture, you're gonna see that we have updated, and the paint has, we have painted that wood area, so it's a much lighter color. It shows you, on the right-hand side, you see at the very back, some of the seats have been removed. So, interestingly enough, it was over capacity with the seating for the fire code. So all the new seats have been ordered, will be replaced, and you're gonna actually have more separation between the seats so you can get through them. I don't know if many of you remember, but you can't. If you sat down, the whole line would have to get out for one person to get in. So, they have designed this. It will not look like the far right. When the new seats come in, some of that space in the back is going to be filled in with seats, but they will have the correct amount of spacing in between them. So it's gonna look fantastic. So the team is still working on that and working on some things with the lighting and the stage, which is very exciting at Rocky Mount Middle School, but Tar River will be using that on the 20th. And they're actually practicing on the 17th, and it'll be usable space for practice as well. Rocky Mount Middle School locker room. This again is with demerger money. And this is a picture on the left that you're gonna see. These are the lockers before the replacement. Excuse me. Center picture shows the before the replacement. Left shows the new replacements for the boys. And the right, the new replacements for the girls. So it was in much need of some updates, replacement lockers and paint and some ceiling work and lighting. You see there's some updates on the lighting. Still some ongoing finishing up, little tidying up loose ends with that. Early college, this is capital outlay money. This is just a little update. We had to work on the roof replacement for the early college wing, and that has been completed at this time. New LED sign installation has been completed. That was with school funds for Cooper's, Rocky Mount High, Benvenue, and they were all installed by our maintenance department. Cooper's Elementary, new sidewalk, main entry to the classroom wing. I'm showing you that updated picture. You know I'm very excited about these next few. Northern Nash construction funds. This is the old bathroom building, the male and female restrooms. It's to get a visual kind of what Southern Nash High did. So the maintenance department is doing this mostly in-house, and this is an ongoing project for Northern Nash High to convert into a concessions building, to have a larger concessions building on site. Sorry. Thank you. Then you will see with construction funds, this is a view from the playing field to the new field house. is coming right along. It's looking really, really good, and they did do some work over the break. The goal, due to inclement weather and some delays on some of our equipment, it looks like it will be into March instead of February, but, you know, we kind of anticipated that. But it's coming right along. It looks fantastic. And then this is the view from the back side coming in. Many of you didn't even realize there was a back entrance back there, but the back side, you can see that. I'm actually gonna go back. I went the day after Christmas. My parents love to kind of take a look at all this because they can't even remember what it looked like before there was a building there, but the sidewalks and the new fencing. So if you get the opportunity to drive by, you will see a lot of things. This is just a picture of the field house itself. Projects planned to be completed, but by the end of this fiscal year, which will be June of 2025. We are working on roof replacements at Southern Nash Middle School in the admin building, Nash Central Middle School locker rooms, replacement of the fire alarm system at Northern Nash High School, drainage pipe at MB Hubbard to prevent that parking lot from flooding. They've done a lot of work prior to and up to this point, but it was more than just a project for us. There was, DOT and other parties involved. So that is going to be ongoing until the end of the school year. Replacement, 4 of the HVAC units, lighting and ceiling tile at Southern Nash High and Nash Central Middle. Replacement with the mechanical system at Williford on the pre-K end. Replacement of the carpet at several of our sites throughout our district. That's been an ongoing process as well. And I'm sharing this with you for information purposes. Did you have any questions for us? I want to say that the maintenance and operation team has worked really, really hard on these projects. You know, I said I wasn't going to keep using the word demerger, but it seems like it's never going to end. It has a lot of little projects coming together, and our team has worked really hard to make that happen.
Any questions from Ms. Miller and her group around this?
No, but I would like to say thank you for working out the long hours and holidays and all of that.
One question I had, you'd mentioned demerger money, and I know that was part of, can you tell us where that bucket stands today and
Yeah,
what-
it's red. That bucket is red. It's an empty bucket, yes, sir. But we had committed to some projects, so we will be talking about that a little further when we get into budget needs. And because once, I'm gonna give you an example. You replace the windows at Rocky Mount Middle School. Well, the old blinds don't fit in the new windows. And one blind multiplies, so every window, okay? The situation at Rocky Mount Middle School as far as the auditorium needs, initially, because of the bidding process, we tried to bid and get used seating that would meet code, and it was in good shape. Well, we couldn't order that. We had to get the students in place first and get the needs met at the schools. So we couldn't get that set of chairs that we bid on. We had to buy new chairs. So that's gonna be over budget. Do we have a plan to make it work? Yes, but we are bleeding at this time, but we're gonna do what we've committed to do, and we're gonna figure it out. Yes, sir.
anything else from Ms. Miller? Yeah. Thank you. Just to echo Dr. Washington, it continues to amaze me how much we do with, not the biggest staff in the world, and I'm sure not the greatest funding that we could possibly have. So thank you again, and please pass that along. The next piece we have for information is from our focus group, and Vice Chair Lamb was going to speak to us a little bit about our school on the southern end of the county.
The person is willing to sell the land. Negotiations are still taking place. We have a civil engineer that's taking a look at the land to make sure we can put a school there, and also the driveways to make sure, because we're gonna have to enter an exit on 97 or either 581 or both. That's where it stands now. Price negotiation is still taking place.
Questions for Frank or any others around that? Are we going to need to, as a board on Thursday night, be prepared to move forward in any direction, or again, just purely information? I know last time.
How far the civil engineer is gone, and I don't think we'll be ready to.
Everybody good there? Thank you, Mr. Lamb. If there is nothing else for the Administrative and Services and Operations Committee, I'll stand us adjourned at this time, Dr. Washington.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dunton. The next committee that will convene will be, the Student Support Services and Operations Committee, and Dr. Chavis is going to lead that on this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'd like to call the Student Support Service and Operation Committee meeting to order. And what we will do is look at our minutes, and we have only one item to discuss before our adjournment. Let's see, who all is on this committee now? Since the new year rolls around, I'm not quite sure who all is the standing committee.
So the new committees will be determined by the new leadership, but as it stands, the existing members are still yourself, Mr. Edwards, and Mr. Jenkins, so you do have a quorum.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, for giving me a quorum. Now, at this point, I would like to need a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. One of the things I think I was to share with Mr. Gray, and I hope he is en route, but every year we have an annual state conference in Greensboro, and I'm very appreciative to our teachers and students who participated. We had art and video to compete, and in past years we missed that. And when you're there with all the other school systems, it really gives our board a boost when we see our kids placing on a state level. And I know previously Nash Central was known to win the video part for several years in a row. So I do want to say thank you to everybody who was involved in getting students ready to compete. And I'm certainly hoping we will have more and more next year. The reason I want to talk a little bit about that conference, I think some board members think, oh, this is a fun time. It is, but you work really hard. We do some fun things after hours, but it's primarily so we can get information that's going on across the state, not only future things dealing with the legislation, but other school board members and their chairs, as well as vendors. And we learn a lot as a board when we go from what is coming up new in our state or across the nation. And so, yes, it has a cost, but I have found over the 23 years I've been on the board, it's worth every penny. And the reason I want to share a little of this is because I know some board members think we're spending money we could use for kids, but it's so much money we can save if we learn what's going on outside of our own Ivy Tower. And that's what happens when you go to this particular conference. It's usually held mid-November, usually right around my birthday, so I miss my parties. But the board members usually from our district sit together in the first general session. During that time, we not only discuss the issues that are being presented on stage at that point, but we decide as a group who's going to different breakouts because there are so many. And we have found over the years those that attend, if we're not careful, we'll go attend the same ones, and that doesn't help our district. So we try to pick and choose where we're going. And there are things like the 3 Ps and parts, proposed participation and progress. And this is board stuff. Promoting our district, telling our story, leveraging community-based education strategies for cultural responsive practices, links to employment success, and independent leading. And the one that was, I think Dr. Washington did this year was new threat assessments, guidance and implementation, policy, procedure, and practices. It's a lot of different breakouts that give us a lot of valuable information, including how to keep your athletes safe while keeping your school out of the courtroom. These are topics that experts in these fields talk about. The one that I found most fascinating, and I think we all attended every one. We didn't have enough board members to attend every single session, so we do need some more of our board members to be there. But we have 4, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Washington, we have 4 voting delegates.
Correct.
We barely had enough to represent us as a voting participant. So we need our board members, and it's really kind of unfair that you wear out the same ones every year. But a lot of the issues that we want to present to our legislative bodies has to come through this group. And we vote on a lot of important things that impact not only every district, but ours too. So we need our words and our voice heard when we're in these meetings. So we need everybody, if they can, to please come, because it's well worth it. One of the things that I thought, and I'm going to be brief, I don't want to step on Mr. Gray, but the one that I thought was so interesting was telling our story. Public education is under a serious attack. I actually realized while we were actually in the delegation to vote, there are actually elected people on boards of education in our state that don't really support public education. And they were in there battling with the rest of us that do on rules that need to be changed or where money should go. And we need every voice to support public education, and we need to tell our own story. We do an excellent job on our website, but everybody doesn't go to our website. And our teachers and our students do phenomenal things that we need to blow our horn better so we can tell the story of the value of public education. So I did want to bring that back and see that's an area we need to work on to do our storytelling a little bit better. We do a good job, but we need to do a great job to keep our community really abreast of all the good things that are going on. For the board members, and we thank God don't usually have reporters in our face until there's something bad going on. But one of the sessions I attended talked about the do's and don'ts of talking with reporters or telling that story. And all of the stories are not going to be positive, but if you have to tell it, it says, tell it all. Tell it first and tell the truth. When you're dealing with reporters, find out their deadlines, get away and get prepared. Don't just talk off the cuff, because you can accidentally say things that will get our board in legal trouble if you say the wrong things. Return media calls promptly. Speak in sound bites. We all have a habit of telling a whole story continuous, but they're going to clip it and they're going to cut it, and you want the important things you say heard correctly and not misinterpreted from it being cut off. Repeat key messages. Be concise and clear. Stay on the message. Stay positive in thought and word. Tell the story. Tell your story directly to key audiences, and bridge frequently to keep the message consistent. Don't say no comment. And I know that we were taught initially when I was first on the board, if reporters hit you, you can give basically your name, facts that are covered on our fact sheet, which I don't know if we still do that or not, but that was a cool thing to have when you had a report in your face. If someone said, how many buses do we run? That fact sheet I could pull out and I say, we have X number of buses. How many employees? How many students? That one, it was like a bullet point, and it was very valuable for board members, especially when they're hit by reporters. You know you're accurate and you don't want to sound like you don't know what you're talking about. And it says, don't be bored, don't use jargon, don't speak ever if you're not prepared. Don't speculate, don't repeat negative phrases, and don't blame. And so these are some key things as board members we have to be prepared for. But it's going to this conference that gives us this kind of information so we can be better prepared as boards to serve our students, our teachers, and our central office. Because, you know, we have to know a little bit about what we're doing to do it well. So I wanted to ask all board members to please consider next November, try one. Go to one if you haven't been to it. And if you go to one and you think it wasn't worth it, don't go again. But I think you'll discover it's a lot of valuable information. And they do give away nice prizes when the vendors have their little contests. But the information you gain to better our district is well worth every dime spent. And so that's what I had to say about that. And I don't know if Mr. Gray, is he on the line yet? Okay. So at this point, I can't see you, Mr. Gray, but if you wanted to share your experience, you have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. I'm almost at the building, but I'll go ahead and start since I'm still in the car. I would like to echo what Dr. Chavis said. It is a worthwhile opportunity to participate in the State School Board Association Conference. It is a great way for us to take care of about 12 required hours of training, if I'm not mistaken. I also want to just share briefly about one of the sessions that I attended that I think might be beneficial to our school district. I know in the past we had an issue with students and the use of cell phones in the classroom. One of the sessions that I attended focused on that, and it's on a product called the Yonder Pouch, which is a device that some of you may be familiar with because they not only use it in school settings, but in major concerts, in which individuals who may bring their cell phones to these various venues and to the schools are required to put their cell phone in a pouch, which prevents them from using them during those said events or during the school day. Chatham County School District did a presentation on their experience with using this pouch. They actually started this in the fall of this school year as a pilot program at one of their middle schools and one of their high schools. And these schools are feeder schools to each other. And based on preliminary information, they saw a drastic increase in student engagement and performance because students did not have access to their phones during the school day. Excuse me. So they were better listeners. They communicated better with each other inside the classroom without those distractions of the phones. They also saw a decrease in disciplinary issues, specifically linked to those related to cyberbullying. Kids didn't have access to their phones, therefore they couldn't send text messages around the school about other students. So that may be something that we could consider providing at our school. Also, if you're able to visit the website for this product, they have various school districts reporting about the success that they've had from using this product. So thank you so much for your time.
And thank you, Mr. Gray. One thing he hit on that I would like to conclude with as well, you get the opportunity to meet other members, board members from counties like Wilson, Halifax, Northampton County. You get to see the people that are your neighbors. And amazingly, when you start talking with them about vendors, they can save us a lot of money because they can tell you who not to mess with and who's good. So a lot of this is information that I hope that all of us as a board will consider attending come next November. If there isn't any other items for the meeting, are there, anybody have any questions or thoughts or anything to share? If not, I'll call the meeting to be adjourned.
Thank you, Dr. Chavis. The next committee that will convene is the Academic Services and Accountability Committee. Vice Chair Lamb.
I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second, for non-office committee, back again.
This time, request for research, Dr. Mudd.
Hey, sir, how you doing tonight?
You just see, you need to mute.
Thank you.
Did you vote to approve? There was
He
a
must
motion
be
and
in
a
the hall.
second. Was there a vote?
Yes, the motion was him, the second was me. So we're good.
You didn't vote. Call for a vote.
Chris is here now, okay.
Yeah, Chris.
I can't help him.
The vote to approve the minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
A vote to disapprove. Motion carried. Now, Dr. Mudd.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I have three requests for research just to present with you all the information. I tried to include as much of it as possible in your information, but we've got one from a partnership with UNC Greensboro to work with some of our EC teachers and other teachers with some in-ear coaching, which is kind of a cool thing that'll be going on with some of our teachers who are able to participate. We also have a staff member working on her master's degree thesis and would like to survey some teachers at her school who have volunteered to help her with gifted student research. And then finally, a partnership, excuse me, a survey study done by Concordia University in Chicago about dual language immersion, and working with district staff on their perceptions and understanding of assessment practices with those students. So this information is presented for your information. Answer any questions. Thank you. Y'all have a great evening.
Overnight and out-of-state field trip, Mr. White.
Good evening, board. We have tonight 5 field trips. I did add one late this afternoon, which is the Southern National, the 5th. But all 5 field trips do meet our requirements for overnight and out of state. And our superintendent seeks your approval.
Any questions, Mr. White?
Just how we fund an airfare.
So that program funds the airfare just like they did last year.
Okay, all approved?
Yes.
Motion carried. Fine arts endorsement, Ms. Henson.
Yeah, just pull up the links if that's okay.
Which one? Yeah.
The art proficiency endorsement one is first. The link, can you go to the link? Sorry. You can keep that one up, we're gonna need to get to that one in just a second, but I think it must be the second one, I apologize.
Yes.
There you go, that's the one. I just wanna make you aware as well as need your, approval. The Grad 007 has incorporated this year as of 2024, the art proficiency endorsement as part of the graduation diploma piece for students that are seniors in our high schools. So beginning this year, if students have a minimum of 4 North Carolina Standard Courses study courses in any of the fine arts areas, as well as carry an unweighted GPA of a 3.0 or higher in each one of those courses, they can qualify for an endorsement to go along on their graduation diploma. There's another piece that you need to vote on though and for you to approve, and it's called a volunteer arts related extracurricular activities. So these are 40 hours that students would have to complete the time that they're in high school in order to be able to get this endorsement. There's some guidelines from the state that the state says that we have to abide by in order for the students to get these 40 hours, but then it's also left up to our LEA to kind of decide and give the students the guidelines. So what I did is I met with the teachers in our district, all the high school teachers in the fine arts areas, and they came up with suggestions, as well as we looked at surrounding counties on kind of what they were doing and what we were looking at to go along with that. And you can kind of see this is what we've come up with. We want to make sure that our students are trying to get kind of a broad look at all the areas, so it's not just in one particular. If they're music, we want them to look at art. We want them to look into other areas as well. So the teachers, the biggest thing for them is for the volunteer hours. You can see the bullet points. They wanted up to 5. They want them only to be able to get up to 5 hours in one activity. So they can't get all their 40 hours in one activity. So it's kind of to help them kind of spread it out. Then they also want the activity hours to occur during school days. So there are sometimes events that they can help with, setups, take down, that kind of thing that can happen during the day, as well as the majority of them would take place after school. We also would like to see that they have up to 5 hours that can be counted for them for a private lesson or a class per high school year, because a lot of our students do take dance classes, they do take piano. There are other things that their parents provide for them, but we wanted them to be able to also be able to include those as well. So 5 per year. Then also, we wanted them to not get credit for anything that they are paid for. So if they work at their dance studio, or if they are, or they are a tutor for a student that's struggling with an instrument, but they get paid for it, it's probably like a lesson, then that's something that we did not want them to be able to include in their volunteer hours, because they're actually getting reimbursement for it. And then there would be a participation sheet that the students would have to complete, as well as submit it to their fine arts teacher for approval, making sure all the information is filled out on that sheet, and then that fine arts teacher would take care of submitting that to the counselors, so that the counselor or the counseling department could take care of keeping up with those 40 hours. We would want this to happen before the 1st of May, that way that the students can have the time to get the hours in, as well as we have the time to be able to get the endorsements for those seniors. And then you can kind of see, as he slides down, this was just kind of suggestions on some of the things that they could do, but they're not limited to these activities. So this was just kind of guided suggestions for each one of our areas in the visual arts, as well as music and dance. And then you can see there is a sheet that they would fill out. Yeah, the extracurricular form, that was the very first one. Thank you. And this would be how they would participate. We would keep up with it. There would be a contact. The fine arts teachers would be able to also verify their participation. So there are guidelines for it. Remember, they have to have a 3.0. They have to have completed 4 courses in any of the fine arts areas. They can't be local courses. They have to be the standard courses, study courses. Do you have any questions for me? I know I kind of went over it really quick, but. Okay, right, we did have Sandy, who's taken a look at our Infinite Campus portal, because this is not in the portal yet this year. And she researched for me to make sure, to kind of see how many seniors do we have right now that would qualify, since this is happening in their senior year. And we have about 50 that they actually, at the end of last semester, had 4 courses, or 3, actually asked to look at for 3, because we can go back and verify the 4th one for this semester. So we're not talking about a lot of students. So what'll happen now at the end of this semester, we can look at their GPA, of course, in those courses, as well as look at what's on their spring semester courses to see if they qualify. That way we won't leave anybody out. They can utilize the guidelines, of course. This will be shared with students once you approve it, if you approve it. And then what we can do is we can kind of retro back, so they can start getting there. They can go back to the beginning of the year to get their hours, so they don't have 40 hours to get from here to May.
Any questions?
I recommend that we approve,
Motion recommend. Second by Mr. Bishop, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed likewise, motion carried.
All right, thank you very much.
This time I would like to adjourn the Academic Services and Accountability Committee.
thank you so much, Vice Chair Lamb. And our final committee that we can do on this evening is the Policy Committee. And thank you once again to Mr. Denton for facilitating that with Mr. Ward and Mr. Weber.
Yeah, glad to help.
Thank you.
Dr. Washington, we'll go ahead and call this committee to order. And then Victor, or I guess, Mr. Weber, maybe in his stead, to go ahead and go through our fall policy recommendations for major changes. We do, we sure do. So we've got Mr. Edwards, Dr. Washington, and Mr. Gray here for the committee. Attached to your package was our meeting minutes from November. Can you get a motion for approval of those?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion, changes, corrections? All those in favor, please vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and Mr. Weber, the floor is yours.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Ellis. I have several policies for you. This is a continuation of the NCSBA fall policy update, so there's a number that have substantive revisions. Most of these come from changes in either state statutes that have now taken effect or State Board of Education policies. I'm going to start with policy 9125. This is your participation by minority businesses policy. And as that's getting loaded up, most of the revisions are to this first paragraph. This looks like the clean copy, but in that first paragraph, there we go. The definition has been updated to reflect changes in state law to the definition of a minority business. There are some editorial updates in section B, and there is a change down in section C that's also intended to align with state statute. Are there any questions?
No, sir.
The next one on my list at least is 6140, student wellness. So this policy has been revised to reflect changes in State Board of Education policy, including some of the requirements around the collaboration by your school health teams, the health advisory councils. There are also some requirements in here related to students that take effect in the 2025-2026 school year, where that would be next school year. Students are required to be provided with 60 minutes of physical activity weekly. That's for grades 9 to 12. There's also some updates in here to your annual reporting requirements. Any questions on it?
This new, we're not doing this now, are we?
No,
The
so these
advisory-
would be,
Specifically advisory council?
for when would that take effect?
I mean, do we have that now? The advisory council?
This is not, the only change here is the requirement to consult with your school nutrition staff. So those councils, those advisory councils have been in place for several years now. It's just a modification to their consultation requirements.
Does gym class count for that?
Does gym class count? I do not know.
It does not.
It does not.
So 60 minutes on top of gym class.
So we have the School Health Advisory Council. Ms. Bullock was our rep for the school board. We meet quarterly. I think our team actually meets 5 times a year. We have school nutrition members part of this, and that's where some of our surveys came from that I've shared with you guys. The elementary and middle do contracts, and they get this outside of their regular physical education time with energizers and different things that take place with their 15-minute breaks with our elementary and middle. At the high school, it can include part of their physical education class, but keep in mind, a lot of those they're 90 minutes and they're not all, they're electives, but they're not required. So that looks a little bit different at high school. I think they're working through some of that now, and I have not seen this change, so I will look at it. We've met all of them and exceeded in most every one of them in each one.
And that change again would not take effect until 2025, 2026. So that's an issue. Next policy, 5150, reporting to external agencies. This is a new recommended policy from the NCSBA. It's not required, so it's at your discretion whether you would approve it or not. The intent of this policy is to combine a number of important and already pre-existing reporting requirements into one single policy. So you see here, there's a number of cross-references to other policies, and this runs the gamut from reporting potential criminal activity on school campuses to reporting requirements around finances. There's language in here captures some reporting for your health advisory councils. So really, this is intended to be a catch-all, just to make sure that there's one place to go if anyone has questions about any of the most important reporting requirements for a district. That individual can go here and then see a number of cross-references to the more specific applicable board policies. And just another clarification, this does not create anything new. So none of this is new, it all pre-existing.
It's all on one page.
all in one page. This is not everything. There's a disclaimer in the very first sentence that there could certainly be some other reporting requirement that's not captured here, but it's intended to give the most important ones. Next up is policy 5022, registered sex offenders, and there is a substantive change to the definition that's intended to align with the change to state statute. Next, 8305, federal grant administration. This policy has been updated to reflect changes in the federal uniform guidance that applies to grants and how the money is spent. There have been some changes to the procurement process and those requirements as well, and that's all reflected here. Next is 6120, student health services, and feel free to stop me if there are any questions on any of this. So 6120, student health services. There were changes to section B that also reflect changes in State Board of Education policy, again, around reporting requirements. So what they've done here is just reference the applicable state board policy, and that way, with the details here, you can just go to that cross-reference. Next, 5626, smoking and tobacco-related products. That has definition of tobacco product has been changed to align with the definition in state law, which is more expansive now. It reflects all the different types of electronic and synthetic nicotine products that are available today. And the last policy, I believe, on the agenda, that's policy 2500. That is your board hearings policy. So the NCSBA policy manual, they have two different options for your board hearings policy. There's basically a short version and a long version. The Nash Board of Education has historically used the short version with the changes to various complaint processes related to Title IX and some other federal complaints. There's a new comment where the NCSBA has recommended that boards that use the short policy consider adopting the longer version. The longer version basically, or the short version that you have now essentially sets some of the basic guidelines, basic rules for board hearings, and then otherwise delegates the procedures to the board chair or the chair of that particular, or for that particular hearing. The longer version of the policy essentially puts all of those details into the policy itself. So it establishes standards for example, how to deal with new evidence that's introduced in a hearing, standards for the review process, the amount of time the parties have to present. It aligns pretty closely with the hearing procedures that you use now. It's just written down in an easy to access location and provides clarity both to your complaining parties and to board members and administration. It would be my recommendation to adopt the longer version. Again, it just provides clarification to everyone. It makes it particularly easy when a party is represented by counsel to just point them to the policy. The policy establishes rules. Same thing for anyone who participates in the process. And the long version for clarity is option A.
So questions from Mr. Weber. We've got 8 items, one of which has 2 options, B, A and a B. It sounds like he is recommending option A to us for policy 2500. But questions, discussion, clarification on any of that? Hearing none, if I can get a, I guess, motion to recommend to the full board on Thursday, these changes for a first read and to sit for 30 days, there would be no reason to accelerate any of those.
I made that motion.
Thank you, Dean.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gray, we have a motion and second, any discussion, any other points of clarification for this? Hearing none, all those on the committee, please vote for approval by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion to recommend carries. So thank you, Mr. Weber. Just a little point of clarification from new board members. These will all sit for 30 days, but check your package because on Thursday night, we'll have another set of policy changes that have been sitting for 30 days that we will vote on for approval to go into action. However, these will be, where am I, February, or a little further down the road. So, any other questions, concerns, discussion? If not, I will adjourn the policy committee.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dunton. And if there is no further business to come before this board on this evening, I declare the committee meeting adjourned. Stay warm and see you on Thursday.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.